We are a body like Bruce, and through this video we hope to inspire you, to drive you, to motivate you, to make you passionate about improving your health through breath control, therefore prolonging your life through it. This is the Primordial Breath, Volume 1, an ancient Chinese way of prolonging life through breath control. 7 treatises from the Taoist Canon, the Tao Tsang, translated by Jane Huang in collaboration with Michael Verbrand. Cover picture: a reproduction of a Chao Dynasty 500 BC inscription. Helmut Wilhelm, translated as follows: with breathing proceed as follows. The breath should be held, and it will be gathered. If it is gathered, it becomes magic. If it becomes magic, it descends. If it descends, it quietens down. If it quietens down, it solidifies. If it is solidified, then it germinates. If it germinates, it grows. If it grows, it is attracted back upwards. If it is attracted back, it reaches heavens. In heaven, it still presses up. At the lower end, it still presses down. He who follows this will live. He who acts contrary to this will die. Quo Mo Cho translates it as follows: in transporting the breath, the inhalation must be full. When it is full, it has big capacity. When it has big capacity, it can be extended. When it is extended, it can penetrate downward. When it penetrates downward, it will be calmly settled. When it is calmly settled, it will be strong and firm. When it is strong and firm, it will germinate. When it germinates, it will grow. When it grows, it will retreat upward. When it retreats upward, it will reach to the top of the head. The secret power of providence moves above. The secret power of the earth moves below. He who follows this will live. He who acts against this will die. The meaning of the ideograms of the Chao period has been lost. This is the reason for the different translations. Table of contents. Preface. Blue whales are known to live 100 years and more. For animals of their size, seals and dolphins also enjoy a long lifespan. The giant turtle has become legendary as to its longevity. Turtles also hold the record in being able to remain over 8 hours without breathing. These amazing abilities shared by all diving animals could not have remained unnoticed by the Taoists, since they were keen observers of nature. Needham, in his monumental work on science in ancient China, describes the Taoists as the first scientists in human history, who carefully noted down the observations and elaborated theories and methods based upon such observations. Considering that pearl diving, which started many thousands of years ago in China, was an additional incentive for Chinese to try to imitate nature, it becomes then evident how Taoists related longevity to the capacity to control and stop breathing. 75% of the more than 200,000 Chinese pages of the Taoist Canon deal with the subject of long life. A Chinese proverb states that the epitome of philosophy is not to die. The Canon, made out of over 1,600 books written in different centuries, deals mainly with this subject. Most of the writings are very abstruse. They use an arcane, multi-level symbolic language. Many books use alchemical terms ununderstandable to the researcher who has no access to an esoteric initiation that has been long lost. However, an extensive body of literature in the Tao Tsang, the Taoist Canon, is explained in plain language. Breathing control practices. The reader will be amazed at the thoroughness and detailed objectivity of the instruction contained in these books. This volume presents in translation 7 of the most intelligible and comprehensive books on the subject. One of the texts dates itself internally toward the end of the 8th century. Two other texts written by Ko Xuan, also named Ko Hisen Kung, date probably from the beginning of the 4th century. His biography will be found in the glossary. A colophon indicates that one of the books might date from the 3rd century BC. Nothing helpful as to dates was found regarding the other texts or authors. A second volume will contain translations of more non-esoteric books in the canon describing methods to attain long life, including special Taoist gymnastic movements called Tao Yin. Until now, only small portions of the voluminous Taoist Canon have ever been translated. This archaic literature is to this day inaccessible to the average Chinese because of its complexity of subject, language and style. As such, the reader is asked to bear with the translation in passages that seem unclear or even contain contradictions. Due to the abbreviated nature of the Chinese text, additions to it are indicated by parentheses, so brackets. This is a unique health literature on a practice hardly mentioned outside China. It was researched for the first time by Maspero in the 30s. His book is an excellent primer for the subject, as well as for the early medical knowledge of the Chinese. Although couched in religious terms, the embryonic breath practice is more a description of physical exercises than a doctrine. The practitioner tries to store air in his guts, where a transfer of oxygen to the blood seems possible through the intestinal wall. If this takes place, the adept seems to be able naturally to stop breathing for a certain period. The process is claimed to have a good influence upon the general health of the body. It is supposed to cool the body internally and promote good circulation and rejuvenate the skin. The practitioner also gains a peculiar awareness of his body and its workings. This practice was kept secret, and the symbolic language used to describe it seems to have found reverberations in esoteric teachings of other main religions of the world. This will become more evident in the translations presented in the second volume, since these texts use a more symbolic language. These other texts also give many more details necessary to the practitioner. Through the breathing practice described in such great detail in the different books, is fascinating, the reader by all means should reserve his surprise for the last translated text, a unique commentary of Ko Xuan to passages of Lao Tzu's main work, the Tao Te Ching. One is supposed, of course, to be familiar with this book in toto. The interpretation given presents the Tao Te Ching as an arcane text giving breathing and control instructions. A practice outside China similar to embryonic breathing is the Tibetan yoga instruction named Dumo, or heat yoga, in which the so-called vase breathing exercise represents the main part of Dumo. In India, it is the practice of pranayama, and particularly that of kumbhaka, which appears closest to embryonic breathing. While all of the non-Chinese yoga sources describe such practices vaguely, with hardly any detail beyond the name, Taoist texts on embryonic breathing show the writers speaking at great length from personal experience. The books deal extensively with the diet necessary for a successful practice. They explain how breathing is to be trained, refined, and even stopped for a time. Also explained are the different types of exhalations that may cure diseases and influence internally the body. The beneficial effects to be expected are also indicated. The official record for human retention of breath, consciously undertaken underwater, is about 13 minutes. Seals and whales can routinely stop breathing for over 1 hour. Modern research on whales and seals has also shown that while diving, the spleen acts like an oxygen tank. Their spleen releases into the bloodstream a significant amount of young red blood cells rich in oxygen. It is therefore surprising that all Taoist texts present the spleen as the most important organ in connection with the breathing practices. Could indeed such an increased release of young blood cells have a rejuvenating effect on a human body? on the human body. The reader might as well be warned not to take lightly at face value some of the statements that might seem naive in the light of modern medical knowledge. Due to the distance in time and culture, many words as translated do not necessarily mean what they appear at first glance to mean. Thus the word breath, chi or chi, is also conceived as energy flowing through the body. When one of the texts refers to air escaping out of the lungs, otherwise than through the nose or the mouth, it refers probably to a marked increase in perspiration. Most texts under immortality understand a long and healthy life. The examples requiring sophistication on the part of the reader are too numerous to be herewith explained. It is hoped, therefore, that the glossary will be helpful. Lastly, and most importantly, the reader of such texts, if interested, was supposed to seek and rely on a master's personal pointer in order to achieve effective breath control. A wish for a long, meaningful and happy life is herewith expressed to all those reading this book. Sung Shan Dai Wu Xing Xing Chi I Ching or Chi Ching. A book of breath by the Master Great Nothing of Sung Shan. Tao Tsang, volume 30, page 856, Harvard Yinching 569, Vega 817. Introduction. What the bodily form depends on is breath, Chi, and what breath relies upon is form. When breath is perfect, the form is perfect too. If breath is exhausted, then form dies. Therefore, the scholar who nourishes his life refines the form and nourishes his breath, so as to nurture his life. No one has form without breath. Consequently, breath and form must be accomplished together. Isn't this evident? The author has been admiring the highest way, Tao, and has been seeking the secret methods in every possible manner. For over 30 years, he had been practicing breathing and upholding the original true nature. He was not satisfied with what he had heard and seen. During the years of Ta Li, 766 to 780 AD, he met Wang Kung of the Lo Fo mountain. He came back from the northern mountains, riding tall and leaning against his whip. He looked at me. Okay, this is one guy relaying what happened in that era. Riding tall and leaning against his whip, he looked at me. I wondered about that unusual person. I induced him to talk. As I expected, he was a superior adept of the way, Tao. Being moved by my utmost sincerity, he taught me a couple of important breathing methods for body management. Such kindness is boundless. It is beyond the description of any language. It is said that the important methods of the way, Tao, are not in books. Instead, they are passed down as oral secret methods. The methods of ingesting the breath, such as those described in Ching, the 2 rays, Wu Ya, the 5 shoots, and Liu Wu, the 6 Wu, deal with the outer breath, which is rigid and hard. It should not be ingested by those who attend to internal nourishing. As for the proper inner breath, it is called the embryonic breath. Since it is naturally inside, you do not have to seek outside for it. If you do not have a good teacher's secret oral method, you will work long and hard, yet in vain. What I have recorded here is the essence taught by my teacher, along with my extended explanations. These are not personal foolish ideas. Once Wang Kung told me that Lao Tzu said, "My life depends on me and not on heaven and earth." Lao Tzu also said that the heavens, the earth and I share one breath, but each manages it individually. How could heaven and earth put me to death? These are real and true sayings and important secrets. He who practices breathing must review such 3 times. I received the teaching respectively and always practice it with admiration. Those who get by chance this secret must be very careful not to teach it or demonstrate it lightly. They should not leak the secret out, otherwise they may encounter disaster. Chapter 1. The secret of ingesting breath. The secret of ingesting breath to cultivate the original true nature is to be explained as follows. Lie down every day, pacify your mind, cut off thoughts and block the breath. Close your fists, inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Do not let the breathing be audible. In other words, don't let it be heard by a person, by yourself. Let it be most subtle and fine. When the breath is full, block it. The blocking of the breath will make the soles of your feet perspire. Count 100 times, 1 and 2. After blocking the breath to the extreme, exhale it subtly. Inhale a little more and block the breath again. If you feel hot, exhale with ho, or ho, ho. If you feel cold, blow the breath out and exhale it with the sound chew, chew, chew. Yeah, okay, that sounds like what the lady was saying on the previous video we did about Qigong exercises. Chew. If you can breathe like this and count to 1000 when blocking, then you will need neither grains nor medicine. Drink at times a small cup of wine to make the water saliva flow pleasantly. If you can count to 5000 with such blocking, exhalations and inhalations are at your command. The merit of such breathing will make itself known. You have the ability to lie down for a long time in water, thus holding your breath in tea. It is important to be persistent when taking in the breath. Only when the genuine breath descends can you experience the sensation of openness. How can you hope for the magic wings of immortality by indulging in desire and lust? Such matters do not exist. Even immortals and superior scholars, not to mention ordinary people, cannot attain immortality if they do not yet complete the exercise. Simply have faith in the old man's saying. Practicing it industriously, you will know it surely by yourself. Chapter 2. The secret of how to progress in the mastery of breath. To progress in the mastery of breath, proceed as follows. In general, if you desire to ingest breath, you should first secure a high, dry, quiet and secluded room. It need not be large, but it must be without any wind draft. Inside the room, keep burning incense on the left and right sides. If you do not use Chu Tao, your bed must be thick and soft, and its feet should be slightly elevated. The book Ching Kao states a high bed prevents ghosts from blowing. That means that ghosts follow the earth winds to blow on people and perform evil and obstinate acts. The bed should be 3 feet high. There should be an adequate blanket and the pillow should be 3.2 inches high, the lining being 1.9 inches. The remainder should be level with the back. Nightly after midnight, when breath is alive, or in the 5th watch, 3 to 5 a.m, when you are awake from sleep, exhale first with ho, the turbid and foul breath from the stomach, for 9 times, then stop. However, it is not really necessary to observe the time after midnight or in the 5th watch. Whenever this weather permits it and you feel harmonious and your stomach is empty, close your eyes, knock your upper and lower teeth together 36 times to arouse the soul inside the body. Use both hands to rub your face from your eye sockets up to your left and right ears. This is the usual procedure the genuine man will be following for Tao Yin, the Taoist gymnastics. First, stretch the joints pleasantly. Then place your tongue as a pillar against the palate, filling the inside of your mouth until the inner and outer saliva juice flows in abundance. Swallow it and conduct it to enter the stomach so the soul is pleased with it. Do it 3 times and stop after each such 3 swallowings. This means you are rinsing yourself with the magic juice and swallowing it to pour upon and irrigate the 5 viscera. Your face then will brighten up. When you are familiar with the method, the general principle is the same. It is like following an adequate and determined plan to liberate the soul, leading the mind to identify with extreme emptiness. The body is like an abandoned reptile skin and the fettering feelings are completely chased away. Next, ingest the breath. Close your eyes and clench your fist every time. Only as you release the breath when exhaling should you spread out your fingers. Clenching your fist is to close the passages and to guard yourself against evil. A beginner has to practice making the breath and water, saliva, flow. Don't clench your fist as yet. After 100 days or half a year, when breath is perceived circulating pleasantly and sweat appears on your palms, only then clench your fists. Huang Ting Ching, the Yellow Court Canon, says close and block the 3 frontier passes. Delay clenching your fists. Rinse your mouth and swallow the magic juice and the jade flower, saliva. Then you will not be hungry ever, and the 3 worms will die. The mind and the will constantly be harmonious. You will attain joy and prosperity. Chapter 3. The secret of cultivating the breath. The secret of cultivating the breath is as follows. All humans, 5 viscera, have their own respective breath. Lie down at night, close the breath so as to become conscious of being about to ingest breath. Cultivate the breath first in order to make the old food dissolve away so that the breath may exit. Only then begin the harmonizing and ingesting of the breath. The method is to close your eyes, clench your fist and lie down with your face upwards, your fists placed between the breasts. Draw up both knees and raise your back and buttocks. Firmly block the breath in the sea of breath and make it circulate from the inside to the outside, thus revolving it. Exhale it with ho. Do that 9 times or 18 times, then stop. This is called cultivating the ho breath. After such exercises, you will be able to harmonize the breath. Chapter 4. The secret of harmonizing the breath. The secret of harmonizing the breath is as follows. The nose is the heavenly door, while the mouth is the earthly window. Therefore, inhale through your nose and use your mouth to exhale. Never do otherwise, for breath would be in danger and illness would set in. At the same time, exhale and inhale very carefully, not allowing any sound to be heard. Do it 7 or 9 times so the breath becomes harmonious and peaceful. This is called harmonizing the breath. When this harmonizing is concluded, then swallow the breath. Lie down at night. Stop the breath so as not to exhale it by the mouth. By constantly willing and persisting, you will attain the harmonizing of the breath. Chapter 5. The secret of swallowing the breath. The secret of swallowing the breath is as follows. The wonder of ingesting the internal breath is in the swallowing of the breath. People confuse the external breath with the internal breath. They cannot make the distinction. How very repugnant. Those who do the breathing exercises ought to be careful, because it is atrocious to mistake one breath for the other. To live, all human beings have received the original breath of the heaven and the earth, and the original breath spreads inside the body and works by itself. Whenever you exhale and swallow, the internal breath and the external breath respond mutually to each other. The internal breath rises straight up from the sea of breath, the lower dan tien, to the throat with the chu sound. But when you are about to exhale because of extreme fullness, then on the contrary, you should close your mouth, let it bulge, and then swallow it. The sound ku, ku will be heard passing down along your left side. After 20 days of such practice, a sound like water dripping down a hole may be heard very clearly. In women, it occurs on the right side going down. The internal breath is thus clearly distinguished from the external breath. Next, use the will to escort it down. Use your hands to massage it and to send it to the sea of breath, which is 3 Chinese inches under the navel, and is called the lower dan tien. In the beginning, in breath ingesting, the shang jiao, the upper cooking vessel, is still blocked. Use your hands to massage the breath there and to aid it down. When the breath flows, there is no need of massaging anymore. 3 consecutive swallowings of breath. At 1 closing of the mouth are called yun xing, hissing, the cloud practice. 1 wet swallowing is called yu shi, the granting of the rain. A beginner's breath is not thoroughly flowing yet. You must just practice the yu shi or yun xing for each swallowing. Do not rush to achieve 3 consecutive swallowings. When the breath flows pleasantly, then increase slightly the number of swallowings to obtain a small achievement. After 1 year, you will be able to swallow breath at will without impediment. If your breath does not flow properly or does not go down, you must limit yourself to 1 swallowing. For every swallowing, when the breath is extremely full, let your mouth bulge greatly and use a little strength to contract it and swallow the breath. Be sure to have the subtle sound of the flowing in the lower abdomen, which sounds like coo coo. The breath enters then straight into the sea of breath. After this, you may do 3 consecutive swallowings. This is how the proficiency is properly achieved. Moreover, the secret here is to benefit one's own body. One should swallow the breath deeply. Those who do not practice with concentrated effort for a long time will not be able to compare, evaluate and see the truth of this genuine principle. It is very fortunate to obtain the breathing secret here for the beginner in swallowing breath, as well as for the one who has been practicing for long without obtaining it. It's wonder yet how fortunate they are. To teach the secret lightly to others will be cause for reprimand and punishment. Be careful, be careful. During each practice session, face east. When you reach the end, start all over constantly from the beginning. The proper way is to practice according to the aforementioned method. Chapter 6, The Secret of Guiding the Breath. The secret of guiding the breath is as follows. There are 2 points on the spine behind the lower dantian. They correspond to the ridge vein with the knee 1 mud pool, which is the brain palace, a point between the eyes above the root of the nose, NT. The original breath is obtained by storing the breath of every 3 consecutive swallowings in the lower dantian. Use the mind to take the original breath in to make it into the 2 points. You should imagine 2 columns of white breath going straight up on both sides of your spine and entering the knee 1 to becloud thickly the palace. Then the breath goes down to your hair, your face, your neck, both arms and hands up to your fingers. After a little time it enters the chest and the middle dantian, which is by the heart. It pours on into the 5 viscera. It passes the lower dantian and reaches San Li, the 3 miles genitals NT. It goes through your hips, your knees, ankles and all the way to the Yung Chuan acupuncture points, which are in the centre of your feet soles. That is the so-called to share one breath and manage it individually. Then the thunder drums, or the moistening by wind and rain, means that though there are springs in the world, the air cannot moisten and refresh the 10,000 things unless thunder acts. Similarly, although there are saliva and fluids in the human body, they cannot irrigate the 5 viscera unless one rinses the mouth and swallows the saliva. The brilliancy of the restoring of the essence to nourish the brain will not happen unless there is an encounter of the saliva and the body fluids. For swallowing and ingesting, the internal breath cannot be pumped up and used unless there is breathing. Understanding beforehand the revolving and unfolding of the way, Tao, and the principle of using it is the way to imitate heaven and earth. Think that the turbid, evil, coagulated and obstructed bad air, as well as the stale and coagulated blood, are cleansed and removed by this authentic breath and expelled from the hands, feet and fingertips. This is called the dispersing of the breath. Extend your fingers. You do not have to clench your fists. One such practice period corresponds to 1 circulation of the breath. When circulating like this, the breath may be lumpy. If it becomes lumpy, you must harmonize it again to make it even. If it is even, then bulge your mouth and swallow the breath. As before, shut up the breath, bulge your mouth, then swallow the breath and continue till you reach 36 swallows. This is what is referred to as a small accomplishment. At this time you have not cut out eating grains yet, but you must eat only a little to make your stomach spacious, empty and clean. Whether sitting or lying down, whenever your stomach is empty, swallow the air. Throughout the night you can reach 10 times 36 swallowings. This would make 360 swallowings, and it's called the great accomplishment. The result is called the great embryonic breath. When you achieve the embryonic breath, shut it off and count up to 1,200 breaths while blocking the breath. This is also called a great accomplishment. If you are unable to refine, form and transform the material substance, though you may accomplish in some way the prolongation of life, you will remain identical to a withered log lacking its natural splendour. You will find below the following topics: the refining, the closing, the discarding and spreading of the breath, and other miscellaneous matters. I am going to list the essential secrets below. Those superior men of the same aspiration should practice them carefully. They shall not miss one merit in 10,000. Chapter 7. The secret of how to refine the breath. The secret of refining the breath is as follows. To ingest the breath, go into the room, undress, loosen your hair, lie down, face up, stretch out your hands, don't tighten the fists, comb your hair thoroughly and let it fall down and spread it out on the mat. Harmonize then the breath and swallow it. After that, close the breath in and hold it to the extreme. Then darken the mind and shut off any thought. Let the breath go to every vein. When you feel absolutely stuffy, exhale the breath. If you are panting, harmonize it. Wait for the breath to become even. Refine it again in the same manner when it flows freely. Increase then such holdings of the breath to reach 20, 30, 40, 50 consecutive times. Then the entire body will perspire. This phenomenon is a verification of success. At this point, your mind is quiet and the breath is harmonious. You should just lie down, do not get up and rush into the draft. This is a good method to get rid of aging and to prolong life. Practice this when your soul is clear and your breath comfortable. Do not do it when you are sleepy. Keep doing the above practice, but not necessarily each day. Do it only when you are feeling good and comfortable. The proper measure is to do it once every 5 or 10 days. Huang Ding Qing, the Yellow Court Canon, states 1,000 calamities are removed and 100 diseases are cured. Not only one is not afraid of the tigers and the wolf's cruelty, one's aging is also banished and life is therefore prolonged. This is the secret. Chapter 8. The secret of discarding the breath. The secret of discarding the breath is as follows. In order to discard the breath and the body have to be harmonious and peaceful. The mind and the soul have to be at ease and smooth. It can be done regardless of sitting down or lying down. Harmonize the breath according to the door and the window, nose and mouth method. Whether you are in bed or sitting on a chair, you look thoughtless, still and tranquil. Make the mind identical to the great void. Undertake them to shut off 10 or 20 breathings. Make sure there is no wrangling between the breath and the will. After a long time, the breath will exit naturally through the hundreds of hair pores rather than be exhaled. There may still be 10 to 20% of the normal breathing. Harmonize the breath again till you can reach 100% of such held breaths. If you can hold more than 100 breathings, you can increase the number. Persist in the practice, whether walking, standing, sitting or lying down. Just keep doing it diligently. The 100 joints then open up and communicate. The complexion is enriched and made pleasant. The breath is purified and prolonged as after a good bath. Then you do it whenever the body is not harmonious. You will feel refreshed and pleasant. Huang Ding Qing, the Yellow Court Canon, states, respecting non-action, both the upper hun and the lower po souls are peaceful. My clean and pure soul appears and converses with me. That is it. Chapter 9. The secret of closing the breath. The secret to close the breath is as follows. If suddenly there is discomfort in cultivating and nourishing the breath, or occasionally there is some kind of illness, go into a secluded room and follow this method. Spread out your hands and feet, then harmonize the breath and swallow it down, guiding it in your thoughts to where the trouble is. Shut off the breath. Use the will and the mind to regulate the breath in order to attack the ailment. When the breath has been retained to the extreme, exhale it, then swallow it again. If the breathing is rapid, stop. If the breath is harmonious, work on the ailment again. 20, 30, 40 or 50 times. Attack where you feel the ailment. If perspiration appears and you feel you are communicating and nourished, then stop. If the ailment is not cured, then will to work on it often on a daily basis, at midnight or perhaps in the fifth watch, 3 to 5 a.m. or during the daytime, until there is a difference. Even if the ailment is in your head, face, hands or feet, wherever it is, work on it. There is nothing that will not be cured. Note that when the mind wills the breath into the limbs, it works like magic. Its effects are indescribable. Chapter 10. The secret of spreading the breath. The secret of spreading the breath is as follows. If you use the breath to cure people's diseases, first examine the patient to find out which one of the 5 viscera is sick. The healer has to attempt to spread the proper corresponding breath inside the patient's body. Make the patient face the proper direction and quiet him down until he is thoughtless. Spreading the breath this way cures the patient. Then have him swallow the breath and stop thoughts in order to remove the sickness. The evil breath is naturally cut off forever, while the genuine breath spreads out until the evil air withdraws naturally. Chapter 11. The secret of the 6 types of exhalations. The secret of the 6 types of exhalations is as follows. The 6 breathings are Si, Ho, Hu, Shu, Chu, and Si. Each of the 5 viscera depends on one of these breathings. The 6th, is for the 3 cooking vessels. Thus, all are accounted for. The Si breathing belongs to the lungs, which rule the nose. If you feel blocking heat, inharmony, and immense exhaustion, then rely on the Si breathing. Likewise, if your skin is ulcerated, painful, or sick, rely on this to work on it, and it will heal immediately. The Ho breathing belongs to the heart, which is ruling the tongue. If your tongue is dry and rough, and if your breath is bad and does not flow freely, then do the Ho breathing to expel it. If there is a great amount of heat, open up your mouth completely, but for a small moment of heat, open it up slightly. You must pay attention to properly judge the situation and manage the Ho breathing. Disobeying this principle would for sure injure you. The Hu breathing belongs to the spleen, which rules Chung Kung Du, the central palace territory, the abdomen. If your breath is slightly hot and inharmonious, if your stomach feels sick, filled, stuffy and constipated, then it is to be handled with the Hu breathing to heal it. The Hisu breathing belongs to the liver, which rules the eyes. If your eyes are warm or hot, you may use the Hisu breathing to handle them and heal them. The Chu breathing connects with the kidneys, which rule the ears. If your loins and feet are cold and your genitals are declining, use the Chu breathing to handle and heal them. The Si breathing belongs to the 3 cooking vessels. If they are inharmonious, then use the Si breathing to handle them. Though the 6 breathings have their respective territories, when the 5 viscera and 3 cooking vessels are hot or cold to the utmost, or they lack harmony, use the Ho breathing to heal them. Since they are all connected to the heart, it is not necessary to use the other breathings. All sects agree that when this method, the Ho breathing, is practiced, the efficacy of the cure can be observed immediately. Chapter 12. The secret of harmonizing the saliva. The secret of harmonizing the saliva is as follows. Man eats the 5 flavors. Each one of the 5 flavors corresponds to one of the 5 viscera. The foul breath of each of the viscera is exhaled through the stomach. Moreover, the breaths of the 6 receptacles, stomach, gallbladder, large and small intestines, the bladder and the 3 cooking vessels, counted as one, and of the 3 cooking vessels separately, also gather at this common opening, the mouth. All uncleanliness collects and becomes foul breath. Every time you wake up, the turbid breath is naturally unbearable to the smell. If you are careful, you should know its time. When your mouth is dry, your tongue rough, your cheeks hot, and there is too little saliva, or you cannot eat because of a sore throat, it is heat. You should open your mouth and exhale with the Ho breathing. Do it by the proper door and window, nose and mouth, Method. For each 10 ho exhalations or 20 ho exhalations, sound the heavenly drum, knock the upper and lower teeth together, NT. Perhaps 7 or 9 times. Use your tongue to rinse the floury pond of saliva and swallow the saliva. Repeat the ho breathing. Observe whether the heat has receded. The heart is in good condition only when the fresh fluid and the sweet spring are produced in the mouth. When the heat is gone, the 5 viscera are cool. If the saliva is cold and yet not juicy, it is due to coldness. Use then Da Chu breathing to cure this condition. Then when the inside of your mouth is tasting good naturally and the mind is harmonious, stop. 1 Ding Ching, Yellow Court Canon, states the clear water of the jade pond pours down to the magic root. Be careful to nourish it and you may live long. It says also, calamities will not invade him who rinses his mouth and swallows the magic fluid. Chapter 13. The secret of drinking and eating. The secret of drinking and eating is as follows. After ingesting breath, when the nourishing is orderly, you may eat. Some food can be harmful, some can be beneficial. You should eat what is beneficial and cut out what is harmful. You should always take what is good. Every morning eat some well-boiled flavourless rice porridge. This will manage properly the spleen, breath and activate satisfactory saliva. At noon eat plain flour dough boiled in water. It is good. So are thick onions or shallot soup, cooked glutinous rice or barley and dried shredded deer meat. After eating, swallow 3 to 5 grains of raw pepper. First swallow the breath for 3 to 5 swallowings to disperse the food and to make it pass down. The pepper makes the breath flow harmoniously to the 3 cooking vessels and the 5 viscera. It overcomes the foul breath and helps the genuine breath. The pepper is especially good when taken on a long-term basis. It can ward off coldness, heat or humidity, clear up eyesight, harmonize body systems and manage breath. Its merits are too numerous to be all listed. The first volume of Dai Ching, the Great Purity Book, elucidates more wonderful methods. Avoid eating the meat of the 12 astrological animals or the 36 creatures, as they are the root of life, as is a father or a mother. Avoid hot steamed buns, as they disturb the correct breathing. Fat pork and raw vegetables block the human arteries. Gourds, jujube, chestnut, taro, water, caltrop, the fox nut, uriel ferox, the meat of the hornless river deer, the wild goose as well as wild fowl may be eaten except for the heart, head and fat. If you fast, you must interrupt the above diet. What Dien Shi Chang Daoling planted was a jade jewel of all plants. It is named the Nan Chu Sao Li Mu, the southern candle grass, or Andromeda ovalifolia. Each bush grows 72 stalks. Each stalk grows 24 branches. Each branch has 5 leaves. The numbers correspond exactly to the 72 ho or how periods, the 5-day periods in the 360-day year. The 5 elements in the 24 chi periods of 15 days each. This plant is to be found east of the Yangtze River by the Shaoxue mountain along the Nan Wet. It can also be found by the Xiang River and Hua Chung. It is good to be eaten and cooked together with rice. It is also good fried in oil. It is not necessary to follow exactly what is required by the Great Purity Book. One can take the Nan Chu Xiao alone. Whatever you eat, it is better not to eat to the full, since fullness will injure your heart and the breathing practice will be difficult. Avoid thick soups of turnips or radishes and vegetables that are raw, cold and pungent. What is sour, slimy, sticky, greasy, stale, hard or difficult to digest is quite forbidden. If by accident you take a bite of such food, there will be some subtle pain whenever such food stays inside the body. Be careful, eat without any apprehension, only soft food. In general, after ingesting the breath, if there is gas, let it go down and leak out. Do not try to stop that. If you stop such, you will get sick. Each morning with an empty stomach, just follow your natural disposition and drink one tiny cup of good clear wine, which is to be warmed up in winter and may be cool during the summer. It helps the main correct breath expel the evil breath. Do not overdrink, since you would get inebriated and this would injure your soul and the possibility of a long life. If you meet with honoured guests and you cannot help but have to drink, then breathe out with the ho, exhalation 3 to 5 times. If you have to drink more than 1 cup at a time, open your mouth and breathe out with ho over 10 times to expel the poison of the yeast. When commonly trained in this practice, the person who usually drinks only 2-3 litres of wine daily can drink 10 without becoming inebriated. Even without having eaten first, he will not be overcome and will behave as usual.